The conversation of transforming the kids has seemed to hit a boiling point, not just in America, but apparently over the pond, over in the UK, over in England, with a pretty conservative ruling. Now, people in the pro-Transformers community or the LGTB community would have you believe that there's nothing wrong with being born in the wrong body and feeling whatever it is that people feel, so much to the point where they're willing to give life-altering, body-altering to kids. What does that mean? That means that these drugs, some of which are actually used to castrate people, that is true, and others end up making people infertile, potentially making people who are, some of them are incapable of ever having an orgasm in the future if they go through this process of transitioning, right, depending on how far they go. And now it seems like Europe is leading the charge on terms of where the information and the science is actually on this stuff, with a ban on puberty blockers, sparking condemnation. The second part of the sentence is also really interesting. Sparking condemnation from LGTB activists. Okay, read the caption for me, would you?
The National Health Service, NHS, of England, one of 4 health service systems in the United Kingdom, has banned the practice of giving puberty blockers to children who claim to suffer from gender dysphoria.
I think this is a massive W. I think it's time we start allowing what we see in the science to, and by science, I mean like, what do these actual drugs do to people? What do they do to people? What do they do? And what do they do to prepubescent children that there's more and more of them taking them? Now, I don't know how many are taking them. I don't know what the numbers are. A couple thousand at least, right? So what do we see?
I want to see it from CNN because it's always fun to see from the opposing
let's see it from
side.
CNN. England's National Health Services has stopped prescribing puberty blockers for children and young people with gender dysphoria or gender incongruence, saying there is not enough evidence to support the safety or clinical effectiveness of puberty-suppressing hormones. NHS said it made the decision, which was widely condemned by LGTB groups, after it carefully considered an evidence review it commissioned in 2020. It also reviewed evidence published since then, said in a policy document published Tuesday. Okay, so let's see if CNN is going to give them any sort of steel man in this argument. Puberty blockers will now be available to young people in clinical research trials and some private clinics. UK's PA Media reported Tuesday. Fewer than 100 young people are currently on puberty blockers via the NHS, and they will be able to continue the treatment, it added. Puberty blockers will also available through some private gender identity clinics, because they're using government insurance for some of this. That's crazy. According to the NHS clinical policy, treatment for young people focuses on psychosocial and psychological support. Gender-affirming hormones and surgery may be available later on into adulthood. Now, I think any of this stuff is crazy. Any of this stuff actually, in a way, presupposes God, because you're presupposing you have a soul that was born in the wrong body.
Yep.
Okay, so the presupposition of a soul is a presupposition of God, is a presupposition of something beyond the material. So the atheist, secular, humanist, this doesn't even count.
Yeah. So like if you're atheist and you accept trans, then you by proxy accept theism.
Yes, exactly. So or something supernatural, something beyond this realm is happening, because that's what the conclusion of a soul is, right? Now, of course, this isn't atheism. This is the new age, part radical leftism religion that's pervasive all across society, right? Gender-affirming care for young adults in England had faced legal and political scrutiny in recent years that has coincided with rising anti-trans rhetoric in the country, says LGBT activists and British politicians welcomed NHS announcement. The UK's Health and Social Care Secretary, Victoria Atkins, said on X that the care that affects our children's health and well-being so profoundly must always be based on clinical evidence. Why? Why must it be based on clinical evidence?
Dude.
Can't we just go with the vibes?
Feelings over facts.
I just like feel what I feel. Like, let me just feel what I feel. Leave me alone. If you're an adult and you feel what you feel, I don't mind if you go castrate yourself. But you got kids who can't get a tattoo, can't get a driver's license.
Can't smoke, can't drink.
Smoke, can't drink, can't do anything, can't buy a firearm.
Boo.
And they are allowed to make permanent decisions to their bodies, but they can't get a tattoo. That's kind of crazy. Stonewall LGTB campaign group in New York criticized Tuesday's announcement. For some, an important of this care comes in form of puberty blockers, a reversible treatment. That's not true. A reversible treatment that delays the onset of puberty prescribed by expert endocrinologists, giving the young person extra time to evaluate their next step. That is not true. It's just not true, because there's tons of detransitioners that have said it's not true, that some of these things are permanent.
You know what I'm surprised by? That they haven't hijacked and made up a new term for puberty blockers. Because the LGTB, they never let something be a negative connotation to what they do. So I'm actually surprised that it hasn't turned into...
Well, it has, though. It has gender-affirming care.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
they put a big label over it, but the actual blocker is called... you think they would call that like transforming...
Transformative care.
You know, transformative care. Yeah, transformative medicine. I don't know. It's interesting.
Now look at this. Look at this. Just complete nothing sandwich of a sentence. Gender affirming care is medically necessary, evidence-based care that uses a multidisciplinary approach to help a person transition from their assigned gender. The person was designated at birth to their affirmed gender, the gender by which one wants to be known. That is a complete nothing burger. Just a complete
Puberty blocking is a non-invasive therapy that can be reversed. Doctors inject a compound or use an implant that mimics the actions of a puberty-stimulating hormone that is released in the brain, known as whatever. The fact
this is a sickness.
Lupron depot keeps the body from making hormones. This causes the testicles to stop making testosterone in men and ovaries to stop making estradiol in women. Leoprolide acetate is an LHRH agonist that is commonly used in chemical castration today. This drug has been observed as having higher rates of success in reducing abnormal sexual urges and fantasies, but is often reserved for those offenders who are at high risk of reoffending due to the drug's intense effects. Is Lupron used on sex offenders? The findings suggest that after controlling for risk and length of follow-up, sex offenders treated with Lupron in conjunction with CBT were less likely to reoffend than untreated subjects.
But it is used to treat SA offenders.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Because it crushes your libido and your everything else.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and also like,
so
let's stop pretending that you can mess with your hormones and then go completely back to normal.
But that's still insane that it's used to treat sex offenders. That's insane.
Yeah.
Your libido is just a little too high, so we're going to give you something for that. That's insane.
It's like, oh, you feel like you're trans, you're 12. Would you rather be from a boy than be a quote unquote girl, be a girl? Or would you rather have a traditional sex life? Because that sounds like what it is. It's a trade-off. It's you get to feel like a girl at the expense of having no libido. Of having no sex drive.
Someone said, we're taught as Christians we are born in our correct bodies. So why are so many kids feeling like they're born in the wrong bodies now? I think because of indoctrination. I think it's a social contagion.
Yeah, social contagion.
That's what I think. I think it's trendy.
I think it's trendy.
You get to be a part of an oppressed social group that creates social status. You get to be special. You get to be in an in-group.
People, females that are autistic are at higher likelihood of being diagnosed or told that they're trans, in which they then perceive themselves to be trans because they don't have... Like Jordan Peterson did a whole thing on this. Autistic women being more likely to be trans.
But if you think about it, it's also one of the only groups that you could be a part of by just saying you're a part of it. Think about every other group. Think about a cultural identity marker.
Yeah.
Right? Like an ethnic identity. If you're a part of an ethnic identity, you got to be a part of the ethnic identity.
Yeah. You can't
just,
Sean King.
Right? Sean King's a Palestinian.
You can't Rachel Dolezal it.
Rachel Dolezal. Right. You can't do that. You're not going to be accepted in that group. Right? You can't be a part of a faith community without there being some practice of said faith.
Yep.
Right? You can't be on a basketball team without being able to play basketball. You can't be in the fitness community without being fit. You like or having markers and indicators that show that you are fit.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
You won't be respected by the gym bros if you're. This is the only community.
Or you can just put one on Lululemon.
Yeah. this is the only community that you can just say, I could feel it and say it, and you're in.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. We see according to the Bible that prayer is extremely important in terms of us being transformed from the inside out when we get aligned with God's will. For the Christians watching this channel, I want you guys to implement these spiritual disciplines in your day-to-day life. And the only way I've been able to do this consistently is through writing down my prayers in a prayer journal that does a few things. One, it allows me to reflect and come to God humbly and ask him to move on my behalf. And two, it allows me to document my prayers, which ultimately help me remember the very things that I was praying for and see the hand of God tangibly in my life when he answers them. So I would urge you, consider writing down your prayers. It could be in a blank notebook. It could even be on your phone. Or you could check out the one I personally designed and used for my own quiet time and spiritual discipline that I think will be a huge blessing. It's the exact structure and system that I've used for years to pray and be more consistent in my spiritual disciplines. You can pick yours up today by clicking the link in the pinned comment below. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.